Good afternoon, everyone. This is Colleen with the Duke New Homes program. The rest of the team is here as well, including Kevin and Chase. So as you all know, the Duke RNC program transitioned on August 1st to the new Ekotrope application process. We have Nick with Ekotrope here, and he's going to go through the process a little bit more in depth with all of us and do a presentation. With that, I will pass it over to Nick with Ekotrope.
I am Nick Sisler. I am an engineer at Ekotrope. Really excited to be working with you all on the Duke program and looking to help this transition go as smoothly as possible. I think once we get through the transition period, I think you'll all be really happy. The submission process should be a lot smoother. So I was just walking through my quick agenda. We'll start with an intro to Ekotrope, how to import REMRate files into Ekotrope, how to submit ratings to the Duke program from Ekotrope, and then we'll walk through a little bit if troubleshooting any issues you might have with compliance, how you can find solutions to those, and we'll finish up with some questions. So I'll head over to the software. So Ekotrope is a web application. That means there's no software downloads. You can access it from any device with the internet, and your data is synced between various members of your organization, so you all have access to the same information. You just have to go to Ekotrope, which is app@ekotrope.com, in any web browser, and log in. And I believe you've all received login credentials. If you haven't, please ask, and we'll get you those quickly. The first thing you get to when you log into Ekotrope is a list of your projects. A project is like a single-family home or a unit of a multifamily building, one specific home. We have a search functionality to easily find different projects. You can search by a number of categories, such as name, any notes you have on the project, builder, community, etc. So I'll show you quickly how that works for builder. And we're hoping, for most folks that this will save you a lot of time, and you won't have to organize things into folders anymore. You can just quickly find things by different queries. You can also sort by a number of different options to get projects in however listing that you would like. From this screen, you can obviously open a project. You can copy a project, which people find really useful if they have a lot of template ratings. To make them address specific, they can just copy that project, put in address or other specific information of that site, and it saves them a lot of time. And then you can delete a project. Rounding out the stuff you can do here, you can create a new project from scratch, you can import a project from REMRate, and you can do some batch actions, which we won't really get to on this call. And then at the bottom here, we have a option to contact support. So click that. This pulls up a little dialog where you can type in your question. You start with a subject. So if you had a question about walls, you would type walls something here. And one of the things you'll notice is on the right, once you've typed in a subject, it will pull articles from our knowledge base that match that search query or that subject query. And you can just click on these. So if I want to see envelope help for walls, it'll take me right to our knowledge base. And I encourage you, our knowledge base there's a lot here. You can, if you have other things that you're searching for, you can, once you're at the knowledge base, search for different terms there. Okay, so I'll go into this example project that I have set up for today. And I'll get to our project dashboard screen. Here is like all of the information that pertains to this project. We have the option to upload a photo of the project. You can click on this button to change some project information. You can add project notes here. You can go into editing and maintaining your component library. And then you can look at the building designs that you have saved on this project. One thing that's a little bit different about Ekotrope than some other software is within a project or rating, you can have multiple building designs stored there. So you see here I have a projected and a final design, and then this other design that I've been working on. This is useful, if you want to, like in this case, save your projected design and your final design, or if you want to toy around with different designs, or like try out a different wall or HVAC configuration, you can do that here and then reference it later, all in the same spot. But I'll go into, and one thing about that, there is one master design, and that's useful for the batch functionality, and for if you're submitting to like the Duke program or to ResNet, whatever gets submitted has to be the master design, and you can change that just by clicking on this blue ribbon here, and you see the when I hover it over, it says make this one the master design. So I'm going to start in this section by editing this projected design I have here. This is where a lot of your time will be spent when you're actually modeling something in Ekotrope. This is where we put in all of the geometrical information and insulation, mechanical equipment information. For starters, we're looking at the general information where you can change the name of the design, the number of floors, bedrooms, floor area, volume, etc. And the next section we have is envelope. Here's your slabs, your floors, foundation walls, above grade walls, etc. And for each one, there's different information that you have to put in. For instance, for walls, the surface area, the surface color, what it's in between. So between interior and, in most cases, or a lot of cases, it'll be exposed exterior. And then we have this type option. And this type is a list that comes from our component library of different insulation and like stud assemblies that we have. Right now, the list in this demo account is pretty small, but as you get a lot more projects and get a bigger library, this will get longer. And so we have another piece of search functionality. If you want to, for instance, just look for 2x4 walls, just type in 2x4 and it'll filter all the other options out, and you can just see what options you have there. And I'll also show you how you edit wall entries. And it looks similar for other assemblies like framed floors and ceilings. But we've tried to make a very nice, clear visual interface here. You see at the top, you can put in the name of the wall, a description about it. We show the calculated effective R value, which includes thermal bridging, and then a cross-sectional view of all the layers. And you can click on one of these layers and see what information it contains. So for instance, this layer is our stud and cavity insulation layer. It includes a 2x4 16 on center wood studs and an R13 fiberglass bat. And then if you want to make more changes, if you were to make more changes to this, you could add layers, you can remove layers, you can move them around. So that's how you edit walls and other assemblies in Ekotrope. So there's obviously a lot more modeling, inputs in this section, fenestration, mechanical and lighting appliances, etc. Don't really have time to get into all of that right now, and I think a lot of it will be pretty familiar for most of you that have used other softwares. But I do want to show this section off to the right, which is our quick results. Right at the top, you'll see that as you're editing your design, you can look at the HERS score, your annual energy bills. Throughout, if you make a change, you can hit update, see how that changes from when you last saved the design. And then going down here, we have a ton of different, codes and energy programs that Ekotrope checks for us. And for the North Carolina Duke program, we're mostly concerned with down here, the Duke 2018 Hero Performance, and then this Duke permitted after January 1st, 2019. So right now you can see that it's got a red icon. That means that something isn't passing right now. So right now it says that the project must be registered with ResNet, but most of the other QA checks are green, so we're looking good. And we can also see what our calculated electric savings is, what our projected rebate. All of this we can see as we're editing the design really quickly. So I'm going to hop out of the edit design section, and next thing I want to show you all is the project information. So project information is covers all the stuff that isn't, about the geometry of the house or the insulation or mechanical qualities of the house. It's things that we're not really going to mess with. They're kind of, set in stone. So we have like the project name, the address, city, state, zip on our first site information tab. Then within rating information, we have permitting information, rating date, type of rating, and whoever the rater of record is, or if we have additional raters or inspectors, those would be covered here. We also have this version. This is the Ekotrope algorithm version used for this project. And one thing that's a little unique about Ekotrope is you can actually have projects in different versions all in the same platform. So if you have like older projects that you worked on a couple of years ago, they'll have an older version, and you can still go back and get the exact same results you did a couple of years ago. And then on newer projects, you can use a newer version, and you can actually change the version as you want to, and they're all backwards and forwards compatible. So it makes versioning pretty simple, as we add new versions. Utility rates are selected here. And then finally, what's new for this program is the ICF tab. And this essentially replaces the intake tool that you've been using for a while. Now that is all embedded within Ekotrope. So it'll should save you some time. You don't have to go back to that other tool. And this is the information that's required for the Duke program. For starters, so we have submission status. You can select under construction if you're submitting the preliminary rating, final submission for obviously when it's final, and then if for some reason the project gets canceled, you would submit a canceled submission status to indicate to the Duke program that this rating has been canceled. There's an option for enrolled builder, which has the full list of all of the approved builders for the Duke program. And then some dates, expected start date, rough inspection or pre-drywall inspection date, premise number. And then this last field, as we're going through this transition process, Duke has allowed, there will be some homes that may pass hero code in REMRate, but don't pass hero code in Ekotrope. And while we're going through this transition, if that happens and the home is permitted before September 1st, you can check this box indicating that the home passes in REMRate. And then after your submission, you'll have to email the REMRate performance compliance report to dernc@icfprogram.com within 1 day of the submission. Okay, so once we've got our projected rating and our initial information in, now we can submit our preliminary under construction, which should happen within 2 weeks of the rough inspection date. So that looks like this. It's just you just hit submit project, go to the drop down where it says Duke Hero. We'll get all of those same checks that I showed a little bit earlier. with where we're checking for any like modeling issues. That's what all these green ones are here at the bottom. And we'll also show you what the projected rebate is before you submit. So I'll go ahead and hit submit. This sends a copy of this project to the folks at the Duke program. We get an indication here that it was submitted, and you can actually see the exact time that it was submitted. So you have a record of that. Now, let's say a few months have passed and we've done our final inspection, we've updated our model, we're ready to submit a final rating. What we do is, let's say I've already done that here with this final design. I would make that design the master design, and I would change my submission status now to be final submission, hit save, and submit to the Duke program again. Duke requires that the project be ResNet registered before you can do the final submission. So I'm not going to cover that right now, but once you had registered with ResNet, you could then submit your final to Duke. Okay, so that's the submission process if you're working entirely through Ekotrope. If you are working with RemRate, it's fairly similar with a couple extra steps. So to start with REM, you would go through all your modeling for your preliminary, and then once you're ready to submit your preliminary, you would export out of RemRate into RemRate's XML format. And once you've done that, you go to Ekotrope, hit import from RemRate. You find the file that's saved on your computer. I have one prepared here for our projected rating. Click on that to open it. It takes a few seconds to import. This will also add the wall library entries and different things to your component library. So it'll build the component library for us. Once it's completed, we'll get this little drop down here. It shows success. Sometimes there may be, if there's a warning or an error, you'll see a message indicating that here. But I'm going to go here and open this project. So it looks the same. Couple things to note: when we import a project from RemRate, not all of the data we need will be there. And I'll cover a couple things. So one piece of information that won't be there is if the home has a smart thermostat, and this is relevant because Duke gives a deemed savings credit for smart thermostats, you'll need to indicate that in Ekotrope. So you can go over to the mechanical section. RemRate can say that it has a programmable thermostat, but it might not say a smart thermostat. So you can just indicate that we have a smart thermostat. Let's say it's a Nest, and let's say the serial number is 1, 2, 3, 4. And just to check that that it's taken, we can hit update and see if that. So now we do have that deemed savings for this thermostat. So I'll save this. And then the rest of the information that we need to update is in the project information section. So we'll need to add the lot or unit number. We don't get that from RemRate. We also need to add a permit date. So this is back in May. And then obviously all of the ICF information will not be entered. So we pick our builder, put in whatever the expected start date was, rough inspection date, and expected completion date. Premise number. Then we hit save, and now we are ready to submit that preliminary rating. So similar process. Once we hit submit, they'll get that record of the preliminary rating. Now, a few months or whatever time's passed, we're ready for the final submission. We've updated our final model. in RemRate. The import process is a little different. We want you to import within the project instead of creating a new project. So there's a different button for that here, import from RemRate. Similarly, select the plans, and now I have my final RemRate XML. Click on that. So this will import our final design. And then I can make this final my master design and submit again. Okay, so yeah, it's not very complicated, pretty straightforward. The next thing I wanted to cover was techniques to troubleshoot. You know, if you have issues, if something's not complying that you expect to comply. So I have this design here that I expect to pass HERO, but it's not. I'll show you how far we're off. So I can, you can go through and look at the inputs, but that can be pretty tedious and time consuming, and it's easy to miss stuff. So I'll show you for Duke 2018 HERO performance. I'm off by 48%, and I'm not sure why. I think I put in everything correctly, and I really expect it to pass the Duke performance. So for starters, one place I often like to look is at some of the reports, particularly the fuel summary comparison report. Is a nice high-level look at the different end uses. Then the proposed and reference home summaries have a more detailed look at all of the inputs for both the proposed home and the reference home. And finally, the component loads. So we'll pull up these reports. So that what the fuel summary comparison gives us is a high-level comparison of like heating, cooling, water heating, lighting, and appliances, how our rated home is comparing with our reference home. So I can see that it's the same for water heating and lighting and appliances, but our rated home is quite a bit worse for heating in particular, and a little bit worse for cooling. But I don't know, what's causing that. Like it's probably something in the envelope, but I don't know, which component of the envelope is causing this, negative savings value here. So you could go and look through this report that has the proposed home summary and also the reference home summary, and they, break out everything individually. But this, there's obviously a lot of information here, so that can take some time and be tedious. So I'm going to scroll down to this component loads report we have. So here's a breakdown of the different, envelope components: above grade walls, infiltration, ventilation, slabs and floors. And obviously, you can pretty quickly see here that windows and doors are giving us our largest heating load here by a wide margin. So it's indicating that something's probably off in the windows or doors. But I want to, before I really investigate those, I want to show you another tool that we have at our disposal. So in the knowledge base, we have this article on comparing heating and cooling loads, and it includes this diagnostics template. You can read through this article. I'm going to skim through it here and just download this template, and then I'm going to pull down the diagnostics for this home, which is through this button here. So this downloads a component by component load for all of the different analyses that Ekotrope does for like HERS, North Carolina, Energy Star, all these different programs that we cover. Looks at the proposed home and the reference home and all of the heating and cooling loads. Takes a little bit to download. So once this is ready, I can open it. I grab the information from the summary spreadsheet and pull open my diagnostics sheet, paste this here, and then I'm going to, so we have this summary tab here. Right now it's looking at the HERS and the HERS proposed and HERS reference home. I want to look at the Duke North Carolina HERO proposed and HERO reference home. And so now for these specific homes, we have a breakdown of the reference and proposed home, roof coolant, all the different loads here. So earlier I saw that it was probably in windows and doors. I can see here that, so the blue is my proposed load. I can see here that my heating load for doors is like way higher than my reference load. So I think we've identified the problem. It's got to be in the doors. So I'm going to look at what we have for the door for this design. So I'll go to fenestration. So we have this R5 wood door, 40 square feet. That seems fine. So I'm going to look at the door type itself. So it looks like R5, but we actually have a U factor here. So instead of it looks like whoever put this in meant to put in an R value of 5, but they actually put in a U factor of 5, so we're getting a ton of heat loss through this door. So if we wanted to keep it as a U factor, it should actually be 0.2. Alternatively, you can go to your settings, and you could change the door insulation to be R value. That's another option there. And I also want to show you, this is something that could have been caught by the QA checks that we have for the Duke program. So if I switch this back and hit update here, so I'll see that we have this QA check here for door R value. It says expected door R value to be above 1.25, but it was 0.2. So that's another place where we, sort of a sanity check where we could have seen what was causing our problem. And fortunately now looks like we still aren't quite passing. Okay, so we're still failing by 45%, but I think if I switch this to 0.2, like I was thinking, I think we'll get a lot closer with Duke HERO performance. Cool, so hopefully that's helpful if you ever are having issues and need to diagnose why things aren't quite passing in Ekotrope. You can see now, so now we are passing by about 1% for the Duke HERO program. There are going to be some, especially for people that are switching over from REM rate, there are going to be some modeling differences between Ekotrope and REM. That's just because we each use different energy algorithms. One thing to note is that ResNet is requiring all modeling engines to switch to using an hourly engine starting January 1st. Ekotrope already complies with this, already has an hourly engine. RemRate uses a different engine. They're going to have to update to an hourly engine, and we think that could, cause results to change quite a bit then. So, it may be a little annoying to switch to Ekotrope now, but it could be pretty annoying to switch to the newer version of RemRate come January 1st anyway. Cool. So with that, that covers everything I wanted to cover.
I want to thank Nick with Ekotrope a lot for joining us and taking the time to present on the basics and also some slightly more advanced functionality within Ekotrope. We want this to be as smooth a transition as possible. We really do think that everyone's going to come out ahead with this in terms of reducing turnaround times on checks, consistency of energy modeling and savings and incentives, and just general process flow improvements. So, Nick, thank you. Colleen, thanks for setting everything up and moderating, and thanks to everyone who's attending for joining. And please do, anywhere along the line, if you're seeing anything that is of concern or you just have questions, do not hesitate to reach out. All right. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.